The headline here that is going to get people in the door is MOH of the Roto Street Journal declares Pat Mahomes bust.
And I started off with that.
We're tipping our hand a little bit. We're tipping our hand a little bit because that's going to be right off the bat. I want to remind you of the banner. You told me to remind you about the banners, but it looks like you're good. So getting into it, I mean, this is like opening a set with like your best song or something like that, and all of a sudden the crowd's just rocking right away. So he's coming off the top rope right ahead. It says it right there on the screen. Banner. MOH is QB bust. Pat Mahomes. Talk to it.
I don't see why I shouldn't come out guns blazing tonight.
No, do it.
Let's get into it. Like Wolf said, I want to highlight that this isn't an argument of talent. It's an argument of cost. Currently, Mahomes is going at the 1-2 turn at the 14th overall pick. Obviously, at that price, the first QB off the board. But I just I can't ever imagine myself taking him in that range. The first off is, like you mentioned, opportunity cost. Who else is there? Who else could you be taking? And just to name a few players, you got A.J. Brown, Nick Chubb, Tony Pollard, someone who I talked about absolutely loving in that spot, Garrett Wilson, CeeDee Lamb, Amon-Ra St. Brown. These are all guys that I think can end up being elite players at their positions. All of them, I think, have overall number one upside at their positions. And I don't know how you can justify taking a onesie position like Mahomes that much higher, especially when he won't give you that edge like Travis Kelce might at that onesie position. So the next thing I want to talk about is that edge. Mahomes, if you're taking Mahomes in this range, you basically have to be saying it's guaranteed that Patrick Mahomes is going to finish as the QB1 this season. And I just don't really think he will. First, through week 9 last year, before an elbow injury, Josh Allen was the QB1 by a full 2 points. And then through week 15, Jalen Hurts was the QB1 before he injured his shoulder by a full point per game over Patrick Mahomes. If there weren't injuries, and obviously like Allen is a little bit different story because that was week 9, but through week 15, that's almost the full season. If it weren't for that injury to Jalen Hurts, Mahomes wouldn't have been the QB1 last year. And I don't think it's crazy to say that there's a good 3 to 4 names that can contend with Mahomes for the overall QB1, but you can get all of those guys a good 2 to 3 rounds later. And those guys like Allen and Hurts, they're going in a range, and you might be able to get them an early 3rd round. And in my opinion, that's where talent takes a little bit of a drop off. Like names like Travis Etienne are going in that range, Devonta Smith. I prefer the quarterback in that range to those skill position players. So I prefer just waiting the couple of rounds and getting someone like a Herbert, a Lamar, an Allen, a Hurts, and not paying that super steep price.
In all honesty, I agree 110%. I actually have Mahomes as my QB3, despite him going, as you mentioned, at least 1 round above the other guys. The stat you mentioned with Josh Allen, he was averaging 30 points per game, the most in NFL and fantasy history before that injury. So I'm with you there, especially that you can get him a round later, and the talent there does get a little bit more shallower. The opportunity cost goes down in that range. So if I'm going for the elite quarterback, even if I had all 3 of them stacked up at the same price, Mahomes to me has the lowest ceiling, maybe the highest floor of them. You know he's going to do his thing. He's going to be very good. But ultimately, what if something happens to Kelce? He's 35 years old. We all assume he's impossible to touch. What if something goes down? Who's he throwing to? Kadarius Toney's a walking corpse. You never know. It's just a weak receiving core outside of that true main number one. I'm sure he'd be fine. The fact that he was better without Tyreek Hill is just like, it still blows my mind. I'm sure he'd get it done still, but I'm with you. The opportunity cost is just that much greater with Mahomes for, a better floor, but even a lower ceiling. I'm with you. I think he's a bust relative to his cost.
There's absolutely nothing. Go ahead, Mike.
Oh, I was just going to say, I agree. I wrote down, I didn't get to it, but I think that this offense is kind of fragile outside of Kelce. If he goes down last year and before, he had that stable presence at the receiver position. I mean, Tyreek Hill is a different story, but last year he had Juju Smith-Schuster, someone who's established in this league and is a stable presence in that wide receiver room. This year, that's just not the case. If Kelce goes down, he has been healthy throughout the majority of his career. But if he goes down, I don't know what happens to this offense. I just think it's all around kind of fragile.
I would say 2 things. First off, extremely good argument and agreed with pretty much every single thing that you said. Second thing is I think that Pat Mahomes, kind of addressing you saying that their offense is fragile. It's like I see that, and at the same time, I feel like Mahomes at this point has kind of earned the respect of like, until you throw a random group of guys on his team and he just can't make anything work with them, I'm just going to assume that he's going to be able to make it work. And with that said, I absolutely agree with you. I would never pick him around the 1-2 turn. I mean, there's just no way. Like there's, maybe around the 2-3 turn, but probably even later. I feel like the Wolf picked Jalen Hurts third round in our mock draft.
Yep.
Which was a good pick, and that's kind of where a little mini quarterback run, Hurts, Allen, Fields maybe went around there. You just as soon have just about any of those guys as Mahomes. I agree with you. Lower ceiling for Mahomes, maybe higher floor. There's no way I'm taking him discernibly above all those other guys.
Yeah.
With that said, go ahead.
I'll pull up my guy. Certainly less buzzy than that, and I do have some bigger names to come, but I just had to get this one off my chest. I do not understand Deshaun Watson's price at all. The quarterback 9, 81 overall. I find it absolutely disgusting. One, just he's a disgusting human, but I'm not, whatever. Just take that all off the field. I don't even care. I still do not understand anything at all about this price tag. I have 6 to 7 quarterbacks going in my rankings well ahead of him, and 5 to 6 of those guys go about 2 rounds later. So I have no interest at all in Deshaun Watson. For one, he just looked at flat out terrible his return to the NFL field. And right now at this point, yes, I get his track record 3 years ago, quarterback 5 in points per game every year of his career until he took 2 years off, was getting tugged away, and now just kind of sucks. I haven't seen him look good yet. He didn't look good in the preseason, 5 of 10, 90 yards and a touchdown. The counting stats looked okay, and ultimately that's all we care about in fantasy, but so skittish and not comfortable in all the things you saw last year that made you worried. He went 6.7, 19.1, 14.2, 13.2 before closing the season okay last year, 23 points and then 19 points. But he only had 2 quarterback 1 performances, very mediocre, and just, again, how bad it all looked the entire time. So I don't like anything about him. I get the weapons upgrades. It looks fine. But to me, there's nothing that you're getting from Deshaun Watson that you're also not able to get from a Daniel Jones, from the upside of Anthony Richardson. Those guys going 2+ rounds later than him. You knew I had to bring Daniel Jones up on a podcast, of course, but I just don't understand. Even in a vacuum, I'd rather have Daniel Jones if they're the same price. The fact that I can get Daniel Jones 24 picks later, it makes no sense to me at all. I am definitely in the camp. I need to see it before I believe it with him. Plus, I just don't think this is a good schematic fit between him and Stefanski. There seems to be weird tension there, and it's just not – it's a run-heavy offense. It's not that spread in the shotgun type of feel that you want Watson running around and slinging in. I just don't like him at all. Not touching Deshaun Watson at really any price, but certainly not quarterback 9.
Go ahead, Mike.
I mean, I agree. He's definitely someone that I think I'm fading at his price just because of the uncertainty. I like to buy into the uncertainty of certain players, but I don't know. I just, like you said, he has looked like he struggled throughout the preseason. He's just not someone that I'm super interested at cost. Like you said, I'd rather have Daniel Jones. I'd rather have Tua, who's going behind him as well. I think you can get Anthony Richardson behind him even in almost every single league. So there's certain options that I'd much rather take, especially given I believe he's going in the 8th round right now. There's just a handful of quarterbacks who are going that 9-10 range that I would also much rather have.
Yeah.
So just to give you a clear point of reference here, first of all, I agree with you. I think I will not be owning any Deshaun Watson this year. Absolutely not. No question about it. I don't care where I can get him. Jimmy took Deshaun Watson right after the 6-7 turn in our draft. After that, it was a full round and a half before Tua was taken. Then it was a full 2 rounds before Dak Prescott went. And then I got Daniel Jones like 3.5 rounds after, and Anthony Richardson also went right around there. And I would take literally any of those guys before Watson without giving it a second thought. And we're talking about, like, in my case with Jones, we're talking about 40 picks later. So that's nuts in my opinion. I agree, Wolf.
And it's just too, in addition to just the quarterbacks that you can get later, that's right around where he's going is where I see a real steep drop off in running back. That's kind of where you can get the Gibsons, The last kind of usable running backs. And we're actually going to be dropping that tonight, my draft guide. I went into the hole. I ended up banging out the entire draft guide with my man CJ this weekend. So I know some of you might have already drafted, and if you did, I'm sorry I'm late this year. You guys know the wedding and everything. It was a tough year. Got a little bit behind. My apologies for getting married. I should have, either way, I'll definitely be out earlier next year. And so you look at that, though. I was looking at the round 8 running backs. Well, one, you can get like Mike Evans, Jahan Dotson, Marquise Brown, Deontay Johnson, some guys we talked about receiver. Insane wide receiver 3 options. Plus, you got like James Cook, DeAndre Swift, Pacheco, Antonio Gibson. After that tier is done, then you're just really into the handcuff with benefits, which I still think they have a spot on your roster. But if you're looking for anything usable at your running back position, this is the round where that really drops off, in my opinion. And so it's such a bad opportunity cost, not only because there's so many similar, if not better, quarterbacks going later. The other positions just take a nice steep drop after this 7-8 kind of turn here, too. So I think it's just that much worse for Deshaun Watson to be picked there.
I would rather have Kirk Cousins than Deshaun Watson.
Yeah, me too. Absolutely. I have him right
I got Cousins in like the 13th round. And I'm not even saying that to get clickbait, because obviously MOH is going to get all that with his Mahomes take. But yes, Kirk Cousins better than Watson.
What is up, you fantasy wolf? Thanks so much for tuning in. If you haven't already, share your thoughts in the comments, check out some more videos, and join the newest Wolfpack by subscribing below.